Today we're at Doughnotts in Nottingham and I'm going to be filming an English Championships debrief video. I've also got some Q&A questions that you guys sent me in, so I'm going to be answering them. Competition at the weekend was the first one in 12 months. So it was great to be back out there. Actually came away with a couple of bronze medals. First medals in about a year. It was an interesting competition, as I guess the training's been in the last 6 weeks, challenging again. Friday I woke up and I was pretty ill. Saturday was feeling much better. Got to the competition, first apparatus, the vault, doing the double front in the warm-up, and I just tweaked my ankle slightly. So I got a slight sprain on the inside of the ankle on the deltoid ligament, and that was pretty sore. It was a bit bruised. Even before the first event, which was rings, I was kind of chatting with Sergey and I wasn't sure if I was going to pull out or not. In the end I chose to do it. Really happy now in hindsight that I did. Completed 6 routines for the first time and hit 5 out of 6 routines, which is great. I hadn't done that in training at all. I think the control comp you guys have watched, I'd hit 3 out of 6, so to hit 5 out of 6, big improvement. I'm really happy actually. So we're going to crack on with these questions. First one is getting older having a negative influence on your mindset towards the sport of gymnastics? I'm not quite sure what he means with that question, but I think as I've gotten older and I've seen more sides of the sport, you know, when you come into it as a kid, you kind of see it through rose-tinted glasses a little bit. So I think, like any sport, there's politics are involved, and it can be tough to really just think about why you started it. So when I started gymnastics, it was just because I loved it, and then as you get older, you do it kind of as a job and as a career. That's how I get paid. So you kind of look at it a bit more cynically. So I think for me right now, I'm just going to enjoy this next 12 to 18 months. The last 2-3 years have been really tough with the injuries and stuff, so I'm really focusing on just enjoying the rest of the process and the journey as we go towards Tokyo next year. Gymnast Kiddie123, just saying hello. Juliet, how did you feel during the English Championships? So during the competition, I felt really good actually. I felt fit, I felt sharp, I felt light, and I felt really calm. Like my temperament felt really good. It's one thing I've been working on recently a lot. I've started doing quite a bit of meditation. I work with a psychologist and kind of work on my mental game. I'm a firm believer that when you get to the competition, all the work's done. You know, you've done all the training in the gym, so it's all about who can kind of deal with it the best mentally on the day and keep calm, keep focused, take it one routine at a time, not get ahead of yourself. And I think I did that really well during the competition at the weekend, so I was really happy with that. This is O.R. Murphy. She says, hey Sam, congrats on the English, thank you. Question for the log, which piece were you happy with? Or which apparatus were you surprised with how well the routine went? Best of luck for the British. So I was happiest with floor, I think, because after hurting my ankle on the vault in the warm-up, I chose not to warm up on the floor. And then during the competition, floor was on the 5th apparatus. High bar, I'd done a good routine, right at the end I put my hands down, so I was a little bit frustrated with that, and then obviously going into the floor, having not warmed it up, I wasn't quite sure how I was going to do, but did a great routine, the best routine I've done throughout the whole of this preparation. So that was my favourite apparatus that I did over the weekend, and the one that surprised me, because I was kind of expecting, you know, it could have gone either way, it could have been a bit of a disaster, but it went really well. I was really happy with that. So thanks for the question. Mohammed, where do you see yourself after retiring? Would you be interested in coaching? So this is a good one. I get this one quite a lot now, because obviously I'm getting towards the end of my career. For me, I'm kind of looking towards Tokyo as being like my last big competition, whether I go or not. I'm starting to think a little bit about what I want to do afterwards, but right now I've got no immediate plans. My main goal is to go travelling, so I really want to go travelling. So 2021, I'm going to go travelling for the year. The plan right now is to start in South America, go up to North America, Europe through the summer, and then finish in Australia at the end of the year, and then kind of come home. So no immediate plans. And then the coaching, last year I took my level 1, so I'm a level 1 gymnastics coach. I think that qualifies me to teach like forward rolls and cartwheels and backward rolls. But I've got no plans right now to get into coaching. You know, by the time next year rolls around, that will have been 2 decades I've been in the sport, and I kind of want to break from it. Gymnastics will always be really important to me, but I think right now anyway, I think judging is probably the way that I'd keep involved with the sport. So I really like that. I like watching gymnastics. I like analysing it. So I think judging would be a great way to stay involved with the sport. But yeah, coaching I'm not too sure about. It's a lot of hard work. You see how many grey hairs Sergey's got, I'm not sure I want that for myself. Gio, I know it's been a very tough to get back to full fitness. What is your ultimate goal this time around? What are your plans after you retired from gymnastics? So again, yeah, just the travelling right now, and actually just being able to just chill out and relax and not think about kind of every meal or what time I go to bed. Is dependent on what training session I've got the next day. So that kind of stuff, being able to relax from that. But the ultimate goal is Tokyo. But the big thing for me is that I want to enjoy it. I really don't want to get to, you know, next year, the end of next year, however it goes, and look back and go, do you know what, I didn't really enjoy that last 2 years. I really want to enjoy it, so that a lot of my focus is aimed towards that and making sure that, you know, I kind of enjoy the process rather than just being so. Sometimes you can get into a zone where you're so focused on the results, and it just takes away from the fact that, you know, I did start this as a kid because I love to do gymnastics. So the next one's from Helen. Helen asks, again, which apparatus were you most happy with? And which this is a cool one actually, which gymnast impressed you the most over the weekend? I think for me it was probably Regini Moran. So he's had a really tough time the last 2 or 3 years. Johnny was incredible as a junior. He was a youth Olympic champion all around. And then in 2016 he had a really bad injury at a training camp. Completely snapped his knee in half. And it's took him about 3 years to get back. This was his first all-around competition, I think, in 2 years. And Johnny did great. He came 3rd all-round, I think. Won a couple of apparatus, and he looked brilliant. So it was just amazing to see him back there. It's been a really tough journey, and yeah, it was just great to see him back competing, because that could have, you know, quite easily been the end of his career, really. Ethan says, "Hi Sam, I've been having problems with a wrist injury. What are your best tips for rehab on a wrist?" So that kind of makes sense. Obviously my wrist was really bad a couple of weeks ago and I was unable to train. I'd have to know what the injury was, but a lot of wrist injuries come from kind of overuse and loading. So if you're doing you might be doing too much in your training session. So take it slowly, take it very gradual, and then ice is really good for wrists. So for me, I have the luxury of using a Game Ready, which is a machine that kind of it's like an ice machine that compresses the injury as well. So I use that on my ankles all of the time. Now just normal ice works, but it really does depend on the wrist injury. But like I said, the loading thing is a big one with a wrist, so make sure if it's gymnastics that you're doing and you're struggling with, you're not doing 3 hours of pommel horse, because your wrist isn't going to be able to take that. You build it up slowly and build it up gradually. But hopefully that helps you, mate. Richie Horton. Lessons to take away from English in the lead up to the British. Looked strong out there, mate. Was good to watch. Also, this guy was watching, which is pretty cool. Lessons from the English, I think, just to trust my preparation. My preparation was awful. It was terrible this time. Like, I lost 50% of the work that I did leading in, but I stayed really calm mentally, trusted my training, trusted the work I did over Christmas. And I think that's going to be a key factor going into the next 2 weeks. If I can get a clean run now going into the British, I can get 2 solid weeks of training in, it's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. You know, last year going into the British, it was up and down again. And obviously I got injured and was stretched off halfway through the competition. So it's going to be nice to be there, just to compete and get to the start line healthy, because that's been something I've really struggled with the last 2 years. So I think the key going into the British now, I'm going to make some upgrades. So I'm going to add some more difficulty to the routines. So that's over the next 2 weeks, that's what I'm going to be trying to do. So I've probably got 2 or 3 routine sessions where I can really add that in. And so I can be challenging for them podium spots, because I want to challenge for a top 3 spot all around. So that's a big target in 2 weeks time. But yeah, thanks for the question, mate. That was Richie. It says, Sam, question for your Q&A. Oh, this is a cool one actually. It says, Courtney Tullock, teammate of mine, shout out to Courtney, is doing the World Cup circuit to try and qualify for the Olympic Games. As a result of that, he didn't compete at the English Championships to defend his rings title. What's your planned route to get in the team for Tokyo under the new qualifying system? And what do you think about it? Cheers. So that's a really interesting question actually. Like, the way you qualify for the Olympics this time is really complicated. So unlike London, when there was 5 guys in the team, Rio 5 guys in the team, there's only 4 men in the team this time. So so that makes it even tougher to get in that squad. However, there's 2 individual spots that we can qualify as Great Britain that will compete outside of our team. So we could potentially have 6 guys go instead of 4 or 5, but it's going to be really tough to get one of those individual spots. Now, I could have chose to go down the individual route and go to all of the World Cups. I kind of had that option taken away from me, not taken away from me, through the injuries, I guess, last year. That just wasn't an option for me. I didn't perform, so I couldn't qualify myself to go to those World Cups in the first place. So for me, I'm focusing on the team. I'm doing all round. I've got back to all round, and that's my big focus. The 2 areas I really think I can help the team out. The high bar, it's my best event. But also the pommel horse, which might be surprising for some people. You know, in training, the actual skills, we've got a really high difficulty. So I just need to consistently progress that over the next few months. And hopefully by the end of the year, I'll really have improved the difficulty on the high bar and the pommel, which is the big kind of keys for me over the summer, is to really add that in. But for me, I really see the team as my best way of getting to Tokyo. But that was a brilliant question, so thank you for that, mate. Which apparatus is most challenging for you, and what is your biggest goal outside of gymnastics? So the most challenging apparatus for me, I'd probably say, that's a tough one. For me to do all around and do all 6 apparatuses is a massive challenge. The ankle, I'm going to struggle with that kind of for the rest of my career, that ankle injury I had in 2014, so it's something I have to manage. So the gymnastics you'll see me do, a lot of the time I land kind of with my momentum going forward, so I take away that risk of landing short and injuring the ankle again. And the shoulders, I mean, I've had 3 shoulder tears in the last 2.5 years, so that is something that I constantly have to manage. I constantly have to kind of monitor as well with my training and make sure I'm not overusing them, make sure I'm not putting myself at risk. So it's hard for me to do 6 apparatus, but I think the floor is always going to be a massive challenge. That ankle's so restricted with the range that it's just hard for me to do the skills I need to be able to do. That's why you see me do a very different routine to most guys. A lot of the guys you'll see on the floor, they finish with a dismount that lands backwards, so they'll do a triple twist or a double somersault, but I land forwards. That's just to take away that risk of me at the end of my routine, when I'm fatigued and I'm tired, just landing short and kind of risking hurting that ankle again. And then the other one is obviously the rings. You know, the rings is brutal. It is tough. You know, the human body's not built to be doing the rings. So doing stuff like the iron cross on a day-to-day basis really takes its toll. So the rings and the floor are the most challenging apparatus for me. Outside of gymnastics, biggest goal, like I said, traveling is the big thing for me in the next kind of 2 years. But also YouTube, so doing this. We had a really great response recently to the latest Lonely Road over the weekend. I think we're nearly on 6,000 views in a couple of days, which is mad. So the YouTube thing is something that I really enjoy doing, bringing you guys some really helpful, useful content as well. You know, it's not just clickbaity; it's something that you can really take away. And yeah, the YouTube's something. It's kind of my passion outside of gymnastics at the minute. So we're going to take one more question. We'll call it a day. I can tuck into this donut. Mark says, when did you start gymnastics? Now how tall are you? Okay, so I started gymnastics when I was 7. I actually got into gymnastics for a school teacher, and it was because I was super hyperactive as a kid. So it's kind of a similar story for a lot of sports people, I think. I was basically just jumping from my mum's sofa to the other one and kind of smashing ornaments. And then at school I just couldn't sit still, and the teacher suggested that she took me along to the local gymnastics club, and I basically just ran around like a nutter. But in a controlled environment, and that kind of drained my energy a bit, and I calmed down at home and at school, and that's how I got into gymnastics. And I'm 5'6". I wish I was 5'7", but I'm 5'6", which is actually quite tall for a gymnast. So it helps me on the high bar. It makes me look a little bit more elegant. I can move the bar a little bit more, but it's tough then on the rings. So on the rings, I find it hard to do like the Maltese, where it looks like you're lying on a table. That's really hard for me because I've got longer legs and a smaller torso. It means my centre of mass is further down, so it's hard for me to kind of balance that out and tip my legs up almost. So I have to be really top heavy to be able to do that skill. But obviously that's gonna be really challenging for me then on the pommel horse. If I get really big up top and get really strong, I'm gonna struggle on the pommel horse. And as I want to be an all-rounder, I've got to try and find that balance. So that's something that I struggle with all the time. But yeah. I want to thank you for your questions. It's been brilliant. English Champs was awesome. Next few weeks we've got some cool videos coming your way. We've got a vlog coming at the end of this week. Next week we're going to look to do another video in the gym, probably a control comp again, leading up until the British. But I want to thank you guys for your support. It's been great recently. Really excited. Glad to be back on the competition floor. And yeah, thanks for watching.